Yes, very good. Good morning, students. So welcome you back to the portfolio management class. So hope you people remember what we were doing in the previous class, that is yesterday. We began with unit number 3, which talks about fundamental and technical analysis, where we spoke about what is fundamental analysis, what is the relevance behind a particular investor carrying out a fundamental analysis. Followed by that we saw what do you mean by, what are the other names given for fundamental analysis, which is called as the top-down approach. And then with fundamental analysis, we saw that there are 3 major components that constitute a fundamental analysis, which includes economic analysis, industry analysis, and company analysis. Okay, now can anyone tell, as just a recall of yesterday's class, can anyone let me know on why do investors have to perform a fundamental analysis? Why do investors have to perform a fundamental analysis? Or another way around, to put it in a simple way, what is the reason for performing a fundamental analysis? Can you respond through chat box, or you can unmute yourself? Yes. Abin, can you unmute yourself? Abin? Okay, Grishma, very good. Sophia, good. Okay, so the answer what they said was to find the intrinsic value of the share. Yes, Abin, were you there in yesterday's class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why do you perform a fundamental analysis?
I'm in hospital right now.
I didn't get you.
I'm in hospital.
Okay. Okay, so the main reason of performing fundamental analysis, as you people are texting through chat box, is to find out the intrinsic value or the fair value of the market share in order to make a comparison between the intrinsic value and market value, and then find out or to make a decision on whether to buy or sell a particular share or a stock. Okay, so we were also talking about the 3 major constituents or components that becomes an integral part of the fundamental analysis, which includes economic analysis, industry analysis, and company analysis. Okay. So in yesterday's class, we began with starting out in what is economic analysis. So an economic analysis, to just have a recap, is a macro environmental factor that should be understood by a particular investor before he or she tries to invest into the stock market. Okay, now can anyone let me know what is the reason for performing a economic analysis? Or another way around, after doing economic analysis, what will the investor arrive? What conclusion will the investor arrive at? Or why do investors perform an economic analysis? Why do investors perform economic analysis? Respond soon. Okay, Karthik, good. Sumit, okay, good. Deepshika, yes, okay. Okay, so as you said, the main idea of doing an economic analysis is to find out which is the particular economy that is performing well, so that you invest your money into the stock market. Okay, so in order to analyze which is the economy that is performing well, there are various number of macroeconomic factors that we must understand and get to know. Okay, so in yesterday's class, we have spoken a lot about gross domestic product. We have spoken about savings and investment, and then we started with inflation. Okay, we said GDP is the gross domestic product of a particular country, which gives us the total value of goods and services that a country produces or serves to its citizens over a period of time. So gradually, when the GDP is increasing, we say the economy is performing well. Okay, and we said there are 3 methods for calculating GDP. income method, expenditure method, and output method. So India is following expenditure method for calculating GDP. Okay, so we also saw the sectoral breakdown of the sectors contributing to GDP in our country. Okay, and then we began with we discussed about savings, investment, and then the next topic that we started was inflation. Okay, now what is inflation? I was asking you a question on what do you mean by inflation. Okay, Sophia, what was the answer that you said yesterday? I think you started telling what is inflation. Sophia?
Of a person. So when the purchasing power
come
of
up
a
again.
product
Come up again. I think you were unmuted, so only half is heard.
Okay, it is like a the purchasing power of an individual reduces when on the product. So the product price increases, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. Any other answers? Anyone? Anyone? Any other answers? Divyant, can you unmute yourself? Divyant?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Divyant. What is inflation?
Like Sophia said, like when inflation goes up, a person's purchasing power comes down. It's when the prices of products go up.
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure, but I think that's what inflation is.
Okay, okay, fine. Anyone else? Rajat, can you unmute? Okay, Arpita has told increase in price of goods and services. Okay. Rajat, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Rajat. What is inflation? Hope the word is not new to us, isn't it? What is inflation?
Ma'am, increment of sale price.
Increment of? Come up again.
Ma'am, increment of sale price.
Okay, increase in sale price. Fine. Okay. Okay, so students, as in the diagram, it is depicted very clearly on what is inflation. Inflation is an economic situation where the value for the money keeps reducing. In turn, the prices of goods and services that we are consuming on a day-to-day basis starts increasing. For example, let's take a kg of onion that is bought in the market today. Let's say the price of 4 kg onion is 100 rupees, which means 1 kg is rupees 25. During inflation, what happens? The prices of these onions starts shooting up, which means instead of paying 25 rupees per kg, we end up paying 50 rupees or more than rupees 25 at the point of inflation. So if you see the actual worth or the actual price of these goods or services for which we are paying would be less, but at last, what are we ending up doing? We are ending up paying a higher price for the products that we are consuming. So inflation is a situation or a macroeconomic situation of an economy where the prices of goods and services starts increasing, thereby bringing the value of your money less or making the value of your money less. So ultimately what happens if the value of money reduces? We ultimately pay more for a particular goods or services that we want to consume on a day-to-day basis. So that is called as inflation. And in the previous classes, we have also told that when it comes to inflation, or when it comes to investment as inflation, okay, you have to make sure that the amount that you are investing into different avenues, maybe shares, bonds, debentures, mutual funds, etc., are having a inflationary value. Okay, Karthik wants to explain with an example. Okay, so so to have a clear understanding, students, if you see the PPT here, this talks about the price that you are going to pay for a cup of coffee over a period of time. Let's say in the year 1970, a cup of coffee was worth rupees 25 paise, or you that is given in the slide. The amount is given in terms of dollars, but let us take it in terms of rupees. Okay, for example, let's say a cup of coffee in the year 1970 is 25 paise, and today in the year 2019 we end up paying 10 rupees or whatsoever. So what is happening here? The quantity or the product that is given by by the people remains the same. That is, the cup of coffee remains the same, the size, the quantity, everything remains the same. But what we are doing, the value for the money value that you have paid when compared to the year 1970 to 2019 has gradually increased, which means the value for the money has reduced. Okay, so if you look into the diagram here, instead of paying a single penny, now for a cup of coffee we are paying a lump sum amount together in order to buy the same cup of coffee, where you do not find any change in the quantity, quality, etc. Okay, so this is called as inflation, where the value for your money has become less over a period of time. So inflation is a macroeconomic situation where you end up paying a higher amount for the same quantity that you are going to consume. So this means that the time value of the money comes into picture. So the value for the money, as the number of years are increasing, the value for your money keeps reducing. So that is called inflation, or in turn, a situation where the purchasing power of the people, increases, which means the value of the money reduces, thereby the goods and services price also increase, because you tend paying higher amount than the actual amount that you have to pay. Okay, Karthik, did you understand? Okay, fine. Okay, so now in order to understand inflation, there are two major factors that you must understand. One is called CPI, another one is called WPI. Now, what is CPI and WPI? Any idea? You would have learned in your 12th standard economics if you are a commerce student. Any idea on what is CPI and WPI? Respond. Any idea what is CPI and WPI? I'm putting in the chat box CPI and WPI. Okay, Sony, you're partly right, but you've given the abbreviation for only one. What about the rest? Okay, very good. Karthik, good. Yes, Bhavita, exactly right. Okay. Hope you people did not Google and find out the answer. Okay. Okay, so when you say CPI and WPI, WPI stands for Wholesale Price Index and CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. So now what is CPI and WPI? They are the two major contributing factors that one of the major factors. I cannot say that that is the sole factor that determines inflation of a particular country, but it is one of the major factor that determines the inflation rate of a particular economy. Now, what is CPI and what is WPI? When you say CPI, it stands for Consumer Price Index, which is one of the major macroeconomic factors which will help us in predicting the inflation, the GDP, as well as the benefit levels of an individual of a particular country. So when you say CPI, it represents the amount of goods and services that are to be consumed by a particular by a particular citizen of a particular country for a given period of time. So when you say GDP, GDP is an estimation of the value of goods and services that are to be produced by a particular country. So when you produce, there must be people who are ready to consume the goods and services that are produced also, isn't it? So CPI is also related to GDP. And how is CPI related to inflation? It depends upon the number of people who are there in a particular country and how much of quantity of goods and services are consumed and what is the price paid by them in order to purchase the particular goods or services. So CPI, that is Consumer Price Index, plays an important role in determining the GDP of a particular country as well as the inflation rate of a particular country, because CPI determines the amount of goods and services that a particular individual of a particular country consumes on a day-to-day basis. which otherwise helps in estimating the GDP and inflation rate of a particular economy. Okay. Similarly, with CPI, we also have another index called wholesale price index, where it tells us about what is the price at which the wholesalers are buying these goods and services from the manufacturers in order to provide it to the ultimate consumers. Okay. So when you talk about inflation, when you try to relate inflation to that of investment, always remember that the returns that you generate out of your investment, maybe a single investment or a portfolio investment, must be higher than the current inflation rate. For example, let's say I'm going to deposit into a fixed deposit. Okay, I'm going for a fixed deposit or for a period of 1 month, let's say. Now, if you look into the SBI rate of fixed deposits for 1 month, the SBI, I think if I'm not wrong, the interest rate that is offered for 30 days is 3.2% something by SBI. But if you look into the current inflation rate of the economy, it is 4.06% as of Feb 2021. Okay, as of Feb 2021, the inflation rate of India is 4.06%. Okay, whereas if I, as an investor, try to invest my money into fixed deposit for a period of 30 days, the return that is given by the banker is only 3.2%. What does this mean? That the returns generated by you are lesser than the inflation rate, which is Darshan, whom are you talking to? Okay, so the return that is generated is comparatively. I didn't get you.
Jagan sir had asked me to enable my audio.
Okay, but you are texting me, therefore I got confused.
Ma'am, I'm not asking to enable the. I'm asking to enable the audio. That means he is not enabling his audio.
Okay, now he's done, I think, sir.
Yes, now he's done.
Yeah, he texted me that, sir, it is enabled, so I got confused. I didn't ask the question, so.
I'm not asking to unmute.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I was talking about, I was giving you an example of how inflation has an effect on investment. So let's say I deposit into a bank a particular sum of money for a period of 30 days, which gives me a return of 3.2%, whereas the current inflation rate of the economy is 4.06 or 09 percentage. But the return generated by you for a period of 30 days by investing into a bank is only 3.2%, which is comparatively lesser than the inflation rate, which means that the option or the criteria or the avenue that you have selected for investment is wrong, because the return that your investment has generated is lesser than the inflation rate. Therefore, even when you withdraw your money after 30 days from the bank, it is approved in portfolio management by Harry Markowitz that the returns generated when it is comparatively lesser than the inflation rate cannot be utilized at an optimum level, because the current inflation rate is 4.06%, whereas the return generated by you is only 3.2%. So the existing gap between these percentage tell you the loss difference made by you, because out of the money that you withdraw from the bank, even if you try to utilize it in order to purchase a good or a service, you will have to pay it out of your pocket. Okay, the money the returns that is generated out of the investments may not be sufficient for the goods or services that you have planned to purchase. So always make sure that the investments, wherever you make a particular investment for a particular period of time, the returns that is generated out of these investments must always be higher than the inflation rate. Okay, so that is about inflation. And also to talk about inflation, I have also told you one of the criteria that is to be followed by the government in order to control inflation, because whenever the inflation is increasing in a particular economy, it is said to be a very bad sign for a particular country, because the purchasing power, I mean the value of the money keeps reducing, which has a negative impact on the economy. So can anyone just recall on what measure will the government take on controlling inflation in a particular country or an economy? I've already told you in class. If you remember, can anyone just recall on what are the points that what was a measure taken by the government? How will the government try to control inflation of a particular country? Okay. Okay, Sophia, good. Anyone else? Faraz, are you there? Faraz? Faraz, can you unmute? Okay. Sashi, are you there? Okay, Nikhil, by changing the interest rate and okay, good. Divyant, okay. Bhavita, yes, you are partly right. Sashi, are you there in class? No. Okay. Cheryl, can you unmute yourself? Cheryl? Cheryl? Okay. Okay, so the answer told by many of you are right. So one point where the government takes an action to control the inflation of a particular country is by increasing the interest rate. For example, let's say fixed deposit rate increases from 3% to let's say 4%. So when the fixed deposit rate increases, as Indians, I have already told you that the mentality is to save money than spending more. Okay, so as a citizen, I would try to save my money into banks, because the banks have increased the FD rate. So hoping that the returns generated by me will be higher, I will try to deposit the money that I have for spending. Instead of spending, I will try to save the money into the bank. So what happens when people like me do all these and then they try to accumulate the money what they have into bank, the money supply in the particular economy comes into a control, where if the money supply comes in control, the purchasing power of the people will obviously come down, thereby the prices of goods and services will also come to a nominal level. So one of the measures that is taken by the government to control inflation in a particular country is to increase the fixed deposit rate, so that the money gets accumulated into the bank accounts of people, and then the money supply of a particular country will become down. So the chart here depicts the India's food inflation components, where majority of the money that is spent by the individuals, that is consumer, according to the consumer price index, 46 percentage weightage is given for the overall CPI index, where out of it 21% constitutes for cereals and products that are consumed, and then 12% contributes for meat and fish. So this graph here depicts the inflation of a particular country related to the products that we are consuming on a day-to-day basis. Okay, we will have a quick recap of how inflation has an effect on investment. For example, as I told you, as in the case of coffee, I gave you an example of coffee where the quantity of the coffee has not changed, but the amount paid for the cup of coffee when compared to the previous years and at present has increased. So similarly here, if you say I have 1 lakh rupees in the year 2018, the value of 1 lakh rupees will obviously reduce as the number of years increases. So this effect is called as inflation, where the value for your money keeps reducing as the number of years are increasing. Okay, so while investing, as an investor investing into a portfolio of securities, make sure that the returns that you generate are higher than the current inflation rate of the economy, so that the money withdrawn or money invested by you will generate a better positive returns. Okay. So the next component that we have is interest rates, which is again considered to be macro in nature. Now, when you talk about interest rates, each and every amount that you save into a bank or a post office or any bonds or debentures will carry a interest rate. In simple, interest rate is also called interest amount that is paid by a company or by a bank or by any financial institution for the principal amount that you have deposited is considered to be a regular return that is generated over a period of time. So it is the percentage of principal that is charged by the lender for the use of the money that is contributed by you. So let's say as an investor, I'm investing into a bank, fixed deposit or a recurring deposit, or I invest into bonds issued by the governments or the central or state governments. I purchase debentures issued by a particular country. Now, all these instruments will carry interest rates. Okay, so whenever the interest rates are increasing, you find the inflow of cash or investment done by the people into these kinds of instruments increasing drastically, hoping to get a higher rate of return. Now, when you talk about interest rates, there are two types of interest rates that you must focus on. One is fixed interest rate, another one is floating interest rate. Okay. Now, since we are talking about investments, we are not talking into the aspect called loans, but we are talking about investments and the returns generated out of the investments. Now, generally, when you say interest rate is increased, the word, let's say from 3% to 3.5% it is increased. The change in the interest rate in finance is expressed in terms of basis points, which is called as BPS. So small BPS. Whenever you look into newspapers, any newspapers you take, and there is a news depicting in the newspaper telling that the interest rate has increased or decreased, etc. They will not tell you in terms of percentage, but they will tell in terms of BPS, which is basis points. So any change might be an increase or decrease. Any kind of change that is done by the Reserve Bank of India along with the central government in order to bring about changes in the interest rates will be depicted by BPS. Now, how does interest rate have an effect on your investments? So usually there are, as I told you, there are 4 important investment avenues which gives you a return in the form of interest, namely your fixed deposits, your post office deposits, your bonds, and the debenture investments that you have. Now, apart from these, these 4 instruments get a higher amount of inflows when the interest rates have been increased in terms of BPS or basis points. Okay. Now, how does these interest rates have an impact on other kinds of investments? For example, let's say you have a savings account or you have a certificate of deposits, which is a part of your money market instruments, and you have invested into it. Now, as I told you, the central bank of any country or the federal bank of any country has the authority to increase or decrease or bring about any change in the interest rates of a particular instrument or a particular financial instrument. So these CDs or savings account rates generally are more favorable after a hike in the interest. Now, let's say I'm going to increase my certificate of deposit rates from 4% to 5%, which is a 100% increase in the BPS by 1%, which is expressed as 100 BPS. We can see that the number of investors who are going to save their money into certificate of deposits will increase. Similarly, when it comes to commodity prices, will fall when the interest rates rise. So we say there is an indirect relationship between the commodity prices and the interest rates that are offered by an economy. So it is suggested that when the interest rates are increasing, it is not favorable for you to invest into commodities. Okay, because it creates an unfavorable situation for investments. Therefore, whenever interest rates are reducing, you try to invest into commodity derivatives. Whenever your interest rates are increasing, you try to deposit into savings accounts, certificate of deposits, commercial papers, and all this. Sir, am I audible, sir? Jagan, sir? Students, am I audible? Okay. Deepshika, then there is problem from your side only, ma. Okay, so similarly, when it comes to real estates, an interest rate hike can be determined by the change in the interest rates. So real estate prices are closely related to the interest rate markets usually, because if the loan rate increases in terms of if the home loan rates or the personal loan rate increases, then the real estate business will slightly fall down, because the number of people who are going to take loans and advances will reduce. Similarly, let's say if the investment options like FDs, savings bank account, all these accounts interest rates are increasing, then the investments into these avenues will increase. Okay, so hope you people understood what is interest rates and how does it have an impact on the economy on a whole. We shall see a small video on, just a minute. To understand better on the concept called inflation, we will look into a small video.
Inflation, presented by WallStreetSurvivor.com. Have you ever heard your grandfather say, "When I was a kid, a burger cost a nickel," or seen a vintage sign selling a Corvette for $1,000? Boy, would it have been sweet to live in that time, right? Actually, because of inflation, it would be pretty much the same. Inflation is the overall rise in prices of goods and services in an economy. Here's Claire. Claire heads over to the corner store to buy a pack of gum. That pack of gum cost Claire $1. Fast forward a year and Claire heads to the exact same corner store and buys the exact same pack of gum. This time though, the pack of gum costs Claire $1.02. That 2% rise in the price of the gum is inflation. Inflation causes a rise in prices and also causes the value of your money, known as purchasing power, to decrease. Claire's $1 is worth less today than it did last year. In general, the demand for goods and services in an economy is greater than the supply, causing prices to rise and therefore inflation. Governments can control the inflation rate by adjusting the supply of money in the economy. Developed countries like the US try to keep inflation around 3%. Because your money decreases in value every year, it's important to grow your savings through investment. Learn how to invest risk-free at WallStreetSurvivor.com.
Okay, so that was a small quick recap on a simple understanding of what do you mean by inflation. Okay, so hope you people understood how interest rates have an impact on investment as well. Now moving on to the next macro factor called budget. Now what is budget? Can anyone tell me what is budget? Nothing new. What is budget? Yes. See, instead of putting it in the chat box, you can also unmute yourself. No, that will also save time. Deepshika, what is budget? Deepshika, are you there? Okay. Grishma, are you there? Okay, Maria, a budget
Yes,
is an
ma'am.
estimation of revenues and expenses over a specified future period of time. Okay, Grishma, yes, ma.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning, ma.
Ma'am, budget is basically a financial plan where you can estimate the revenues and expenditure on periodical basis.
Okay, good. Fine. Anyone else? Karthik, can you just give a try on what is budget? Okay, Bhavita, sum of financial allocations is budget. Okay. Karthik, can you just give a try? Can you unmute yourself? Karthik?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
It is
Karthik.
an estimation of revenue and expenses over a specified future period, ma'am.
Okay, so generally we say it is an estimation. Can you just try relating budget to investments? Does budget have an impact on your investments? What do you feel? Karthik?
One minute, ma'am.
Okay, Deepshika, allocating money for certain purpose. Okay, students, what do you feel? Do you feel that budget has an impact on your investments or not? Does it have an impact? I just want your opinion, whether yes or no. My question was, does budget have an impact on your investment? Okay. Fine, Grishma, Deepshika. Okay, Karthik. Okay, Divyant. Okay, so all of you have told that budget, yes, has an impact on your investment. So you all are right, but we will just check out on how does this budget have an impact on your investments. So as you people said, budget is nothing but an estimation of a country's revenues and expenditures on how a particular country is trying to generate revenues for a given period of time, and how these revenues that are generated are going to be utilized by the government for the upliftment of the economy. Now, when a budget is presented in the parliament by the finance minister, each and every individual focuses on to hear the budget, because all our financial matters for a particular period of time will have a direct impact on the budget that is to be presented by the government. So when the budget is presented, the government gives about changes in the tax rules and the investment avenues, on telling which are the avenues that are that the government is going to spend more. Okay, or the government is planning to invest. So when the finance minister announces that, for example, let's say this year the emphasis is on 4 states for infrastructural development, namely Tamil Nadu, Assam, Maharashtra, etc. There are 4 states that have been given emphasis for developing the infrastructure. Maybe the reason behind that may be political, but when such a news is being announced, you see to that. Okay, so when such a news has been announced, you see to that the companies that are into infrastructural development like L&T, etc., the share prices will start increasing. So similarly, when it comes to investment of a particular individual, when such news is announced, you try to purchase the shares of the companies which have an impact on these announcements made by the government. For example, to give you another example, one of the major expense that the government has projected in this budget session is towards the health and health sector. That's for the COVID vaccination and the COVID expenses that the government has incurred. So when such announcements are given, or the government is planning for such facilities to be given, the share prices of pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies would have drastically increased, where the number of investors or the buyers of these companies will increase. So any announcement that is made in the budget session will have a direct impact on the share prices of the particular company in which it is traded. Okay. Similarly, for investments, when in the budget session, the finance minister tries to tell out the tax structure of the particular economy as well, depending upon which the investment pattern of the individual will differ. Okay, so this is an example of the factors that have an impact on the automobile industry. For example, as I told you, in this budget, the government has focused on giving an emphasis on infrastructure development. Therefore, the share prices of L&T and all power sector and all would drastically increase. Similarly, if the budget session says that they would invest into automobile or automotive industries, the share prices of automobile industries would have drastically increased. So we say whenever budgets are presented, the impact of the budget session will have a direct impact on the stock market of a particular economy. Okay, so moving on to the next macroeconomic factor called fiscal deficit. Now, what is fiscal deficit? Anyone? What is fiscal deficit? Have you heard about this term called fiscal deficit? Okay, so when you say fiscal deficit, it is the difference between, in simple, it is the difference between the total income of the government and the total expenditure. So incomes can be in the form of tax and various other revenues, and the difference between the income and expenditure of a particular government is said to be fiscal. Okay, fiscal in nature, fiscal or revenue deficit. We can either, when you say the difference between the incomes and expenditure, we can either call it as revenue in nature or fiscal in nature. Okay, so in simple, what is fiscal deficit is when the government's non-borrowed receipts fall short of its entire expenditure, and the government tries to borrow money from the public by issuing treasury bills or commercial papers or certificate of deposits, and the excess of these total expenditures are accumulated, you call that money to be called as fiscal deficit. So if you look into India's scenario, India has always had a fiscal deficit only, and there is no over a period of time. If you look into over past 10-15 years, there has not been a surplus amount that the government has got, which means that the government's expenditures are more than the income that the government generates. Therefore, whenever there is a fiscal deficit, in order to meet the expenditures of the government, since there is no money available with the government tries to borrow a lot of funds from the IMF, World Bank, or any other foreign nations, or from the public itself by issuing treasury bills, certificate of deposits, etc. Okay, so a fiscal deficit in simple refers to the difference between the total income that a government generates minus the total expenditure that the government incurs. So as per the recent news given by the Economic Times, as of the newspaper on 1st Feb, the government revised its fiscal deficit target from the current year that runs through March to 9.5% of GDP instead of its original target of 3.5%. So now, earlier, the government had planned to meet a fiscal deficit of 3.5% only, but as of February, the government has revised its plan of on meeting its fiscal deficit to 9.5% because of the pandemic situation that has happened, which has lowered the tax collection to the government and led to higher spending. So because of the number of people who have paid taxes are less, and the taxes are less, the revenue for the government has reduced, wherein the expenditures of the government has increased because of the pandemic situation that has happened, whereby leading to increase in the fiscal deficit of the country from 3.5% to 9.5%. So this graph here depicts the fiscal deficit of India for over a period of time. So if you look into the year 2015, the target of fiscal deficit for 4.5%, wherein it was equal to the actual. In the year 15, 16, 17, and 18, if you see, the actual deficit was more than the estimated amount. In the year 19 also, it was more by 0.1%, but in the financial year 2020, it drastically increased. The estimated fiscal deficit of the country by the government was only 3.3%. But actually, by the end of year 2020, it has increased to 4%. One of the reasons behind maybe the reduced income of the government and higher spending of the government in terms of natural calamities and other expenditures due to pandemic. And this year also, in the initial quarter itself, the government has drastically increased the government has drastically estimated an increase in the fiscal deficit by 9.5%, where in the previous year it stood at 3.3 or 3.5%, but this year it is going to be 9.5%. And the news has clearly told that the reason behind is the lowering of tax collection and higher spending. So when you say budget and fiscal deficit, both have an impact on your investments, because when there is a fiscal deficit for a particular government, it is not only for the government but for the individuals as well. So due to pandemic, we would have seen a lot of people losing their jobs and meeting various uncertainties in life, wherein the revenue for a particular family or an individual would have reduced, therefore having an impact on their savings and investments. Okay, so before I move on to the next macroeconomic factor, we shall see a small video on fiscal deficit.
India's fiscal deficit in the first 8 months till November 2019 is at 8.08 trillion rupees, or about 115% of the budgeted target for the current fiscal year. Let's try and understand what exactly is fiscal deficit and why is the widening of this deficit a big concern. So what is fiscal deficit? Well, the difference between the total revenue and the total expenditure of the government is termed as fiscal deficit. Generally, fiscal deficit takes place either due to revenue deficit or a major hike in the capital expenditure. So what constitutes the government's total income? Well, it has two components: revenue receipts and non-tax revenues. Revenue receipts of the government include corporation tax, income tax, customs duties, union excise duties, GST, or the taxes of union territories. Non-tax revenues include interest receipts, dividends and profits, external grants, other non-tax revenues, and receipts of the union territories. So what constitutes the government's expenditure now? Well, the government's expenditure includes revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, interest payments, and grants in aid for creation of capital assets. The fiscal deficit is usually mentioned as a percentage of GDP. The government has estimated the fiscal deficit for the current financial year at 7.03 lakh crore rupees, aiming to restrict the deficit at 3.3% of the GDP. Now, looking at the current figures, the government is also likely to run a fiscal deficit higher than 3.3% of the gross domestic product announced in the Union Budget of 2019-20. Now, this is primarily due to the recent corporate tax cuts by the government, which will have an impact of 1.45 lakh crore rupees on its revenue mobilization. So how does a government meet its fiscal deficit? Well, governments typically finance their deficit by borrowings. There are many avenues from where a government can borrow, that is from banks, public institutions, public, and even from overseas investors. So will the government be able to meet its deficit target this fiscal year? Well, experts like Aditi Nair, who is the principal economist at ICRA, says that concerns on the extent of fiscal slippage persist given the likely shortfall in tax collections and lack of clarity on the revenue from telecom license holders and disinvestment. While Geeta Gopinath, chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, recently said that India needs to keep to its fiscal deficit target. The government has asked all the departments to restrict expenses to 25% of the budget estimate in January to March. Some experts have also highlighted that the disinvestment of Bharat Petroleum is crucial for the fiscal balance this fiscal year. So what should the ideal fiscal deficit look like? Well, in India, the FRBM Act suggests bringing the fiscal deficit down to about 3% of the GDP is the ideal target. Unfortunately, successive governments have not been able to achieve this target.
Okay, so hope you people understood what is fiscal deficit and what are the tax revenues, non-tax revenues of the governments, and what is the expenditure of the government and how the government tries to focus. So as I told you, in order to meet, if the government has a fiscal deficit, we try to borrow, the country on a whole tries to borrow from various institutions like World Bank, IMF, public sector banks, or from the public by issuing treasury bills, certificate of deposits, etc. Okay, so the next major factor that has an impact on the economic analysis, which is to be read, is the tax structure. So as we all are studying income tax, according to the Income Tax Act 1961, every individual is liable to pay tax when his or her earnings crosses a minimum exemption limit that has been provided by the government. So whenever you talk about tax is considered to be one of the major source of revenue for a particular government. So when you talk about tax, you know that there are two types of taxes: direct and indirect tax. Direct tax is an example of direct tax is the income tax that is to be paid by the government, and an example of indirect tax is the now changed GST, which is goods and service tax, for levied on goods and services that we consume. Okay, now a tax has a very big impact on choosing the investment option. Okay, taxes also try to reduce your investable income, that is the amount of income you can invest into a particular avenue. For example, let's say a PPF, that is Public Provident Fund, at present has a limit of minimum 1.5 lakhs to a maximum of 15 lakhs per year can be deposited into a PPF account in order to claim exemption under Section 80C. Okay, now let's say this limit is being changed by the government, where the government says you can deposit only 1 lakh in a minimum of 1 lakh into a PPF account in order to claim exemption. So people who are depositing their money into PPF, they would reduce their investments into Public Provident Fund. Therefore, tax has a direct relationship with investable income. Hope you people understood the example that I told you. The example that I gave you was related to PPF. Usually, what is PPF? Public Provident Fund. It is a provident fund account that can be opened by any people, whether salaried or not. Whether I'm salaried or I'm not, I'm a non-salaried person, I can open a Public Provident Fund account in any nationalized bank by